Right, hello everybody, and thank you for coming to spend some time to listen to me talk about ConquerMaths and how we've worked with governments overseas. And what I'm going to talk about is a number of areas where we went right, where we went wrong, and some of the various different methods that we use to ensure success in quite a number of different markets, despite being a fairly small company. Right, okay, well, I'll tell you a little bit about myself first. I've been in business working internationally for in excess of 20 years now. I started my first business at 13 years old when I was still at school, and that was a little bit of juggling, dealing with school and then traveling quite extensively over the weekends and trying to make a bit of money. And that was fairly successful for a fairly long time, but unfortunately due to a bit of naivety, I had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way, and that continues through business. I think that's a natural nature of business, but fortunately there are a lot of ways to avoid learning these lessons the hard way. So hopefully some of the things I tell you today about our experiences might help you avoid some of those pitfalls. Okay, so ConquerMaths was formed approximately 11 years ago, and we basically tried to market the product internationally from day one. That was successful to an extent, and I shall go into that shortly. Since starting ConquerMaths, I've used a lot of the skills that were built up there to start a number of additional businesses. And fortunately, having already learned a lot of lessons the hard way, there are slightly fewer to worry about now. So in addition to ConquerMaths, we now offer a number of business services. We have a software development arm. We are entering into the computing curriculum, which is a very, very current topic. And in addition to that, we provide compliant communication in numerous languages around the world. Okay, so ConquerMaths, as I said, we started around about 11 years ago, and we managed to start the business with just £1,000. And that's no mean feat to start an international business with £1,000. We immediately launched into international markets, and we marketed worldwide with the exception of just Australia and New Zealand. We made quite a lot of mistakes. Fortunately, we were able to overcome those problems before they took over us. And it was a very, very interesting few years getting started with this organization. We've found that one of the best ways to enter international markets for us has been to engage with independent agents and develop strategic partnerships with larger organizations that already work in the territories that we're looking to enter. I'll cover a little bit more about that later in my presentation. Now, certainly one thing that's very important when entering a new market that we discovered is that really you have to have proven your concept. That's been very difficult for us because one thing that we found when talking to governments is that they already want the concept to be proven before they'll even talk to you. So there's a bit of a vicious circle that opens up, and in order to deal with that, it's important to engage with the right people who know the right people so that you can then prove that concept in conjunction with those governments. So by successfully doing that in a few small areas, we've managed to grow our organization quite rapidly. Now, when I first put this presentation together, I did a little bit of an analysis just to see how widespread our product was. And when I did that, I think it was late November last year, I was quite pleased to see that we were working in 118 countries around the world. And I thought, well, that's pretty good going. So a couple of weeks ago, just preparing for this talk, I did the same analysis again, and that had gone up to 144 countries. That happened in the space of about 5 weeks. So really, I mean, last year was a moment of massive change for us. We looked at very different ways of pushing our business forward, and it really has made a huge difference for us. So we've now managed to increase our market share absolutely massively. We are working in well over half of the world, and we're pretty proud of what we've achieved. We are obviously looking to increase that further. The Bet Show is an excellent place to do that. We're meeting some brilliant people here, and I'm pretty sure that following this show, that number is going to be greater again by next year. And hopefully, if I see some of you then, I'll give you a bit of a further update. Okay, so how did we achieve this? Initially, that was, well, we tried anyway, that was through organic methods. That's not very easy to do. A lot of people have this mindset that you build something and people will come. It's a very old saying, build it and they will come. That doesn't happen. In the world of the internet 10 years ago, it was slightly more likely, but now you're fighting against billions of websites. You are fighting against billions of competitors, and the market, in many ways, is saturated across the world. So that, whilst we had limited success early on, that became a lot more difficult over time. So the next logical step is advertising. There are a number of ways that we achieved our market, our proliferation through the market using advertising. The most effective, in my mind, is using online marketing methods. Pay-per-click networks are great. The likes of Google AdWords, Bing Ads, and other networks, some regional networks as well, are absolutely excellent. However, there are a number of hurdles to jump over, and there are pitfalls that you can tumble into, and you've got to be very, very careful where you put your money. They can be very expensive, but they can also be very cheap. And that's the beauty of them. They are cheap advertising, they are highly targeted, and it's trackable. As long as you track it, then you will achieve success. So we actually found that initially, most of our growth came from using Google AdWords specifically to start with, and later additional networks. So literally from day one, in fact, our first subscription didn't come from the UK, despite we're a UK company. It actually came from Canada. The second subscription came from Finland. Our product's a purely English product. Fortunately, Finland's a very good English-speaking nation. So we found that actually the UK was a little bit slower to adopt our product than the rest of the world initially. More recently, it's become important to engage with social media. Now, naturally, in the UK, we would assume the likes of LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook are the most important places to market your products and ideas. And that's very true. However, if you're looking to enter new markets overseas, it's important to look at the various social networks that are more prolific in different territories. In all honesty, this is an area that we will improve upon. At the moment, we concentrate strongly on Twitter and Facebook, but there are improvements we can make. So certainly, if any of you are considering entering new markets, do your research beforehand. Make sure you know exactly the networks that people are likely to use, and also think about the industry you're entering as well, because there may be certain intricacies that you can take advantage of. Now, obviously, a place like this, there are very few places you can go to actually stand directly in front of decision makers, senior decision makers from literally all around the world. Well, that's something that you've got to take advantage of. I mean, okay, it can be a fairly major investment to come to something like the Bet Show. But in all honesty, it is our main route to the schools market. If we didn't come here, we probably wouldn't have much of a schools market. So it's worth considering these sort of investments. We've been exhibiting at the Bet Show. This is our 4th year running. We came, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago, and attended on another company's stand. That was our first opportunity to dip our toe in the water here. We had a great time at that one. And 4 years ago, we thought, yeah, we've really got to jump into this and give it our all. So we started taking our own stand. It's grown year by year. Each year we gather more leads, we meet more influential people, We see people that we've seen before, and that's key. Certainly when somebody's traveling from an overseas territory, for example, the Middle East, if a delegate comes representing the ministry or even a school or a group of schools, if they see you more than once, they will recognize you. They will remember you, and it makes it far more likely that they will listen to you. And we found that each year we are listened to more, we get a greater return on investment, and really, we actually have a good time of it as well. We meet some lovely people, and I would strongly recommend that you consider working in a similar manner. We haven't yet attended any overseas exhibitions. It is something that we look to do in the future. It is, again, a very big investment, and I certainly believe that is a great opportunity. Having talked to colleagues who attend some of the not Asian exhibitions, the Middle Eastern exhibitions, I understand that the returns there can be excellent as well. So more recently, pardon me, in overseas territories, we've engaged with agents and distributors. Now, last year, we entered into an arrangement in the Caribbean. This was a brilliant opportunity. We were approached by a gentleman called Winston, and he wanted to market our mathematics product basically across the Caribbean. He contacted us from Barbados. I thought, that's quite good. I've always wanted to go to Barbados, so let's have a chat with this guy. And he was able to talk about our product the way that we do, with the same excitement, almost annoyingly. And I like that. I like people that are as annoying as I am. So I talked with him some more, and it turned out that whilst he was an art teacher, he had previously won the Prime Minister's Award for Innovation for a mathematics board game he created. So I thought, right, okay, well, this is a great opportunity. He was both a nice guy, he was annoying, and he had the right contacts. So we engaged with him. We signed a contract with him, and luckily, I was invited to the launch of a government-supported pilot project for our product in Barbados. That was, in fact, sorry, it wasn't last year. It was right at the end of 2013. So we attended the initial pilot opening ceremony, and fortunately, by finding this guy, in fact, by him finding us and us engaging with him in the correct manner, talking to him with respect and receiving the same respect back, he was able to lay down a very, very, very promising route forward with this product. I arrived there, and he immediately met us at the airport, and from that point on, we were treated almost as celebrities. What we found was by entering a smaller nation, the bureaucracy levels are so much lower. The requirement to prove yourself is a lot more simple. So by entering this small nation that is really the size of a small city in the UK, we were able to get to the top levels of government without any great effort. So we sat down with the Ministry of Education. We had candid meetings with them that were pleasant. Film crews followed us around the island. We were almost constantly on television through the 2.5-week visit there. I was on live breakfast television, and it was quite nerve-wracking, but it was good fun. So by entering this small nation, all of a sudden, we had the respect of government. We had an opportunity for this government office to promote our product for us. Now, that doesn't happen under normal circumstances, so we jumped upon it. And by doing that, the other small nations in the Caribbean sat back and looked at Barbados, which has always been quite a successful nation, and they said, well, okay, if they're doing it, we want to do it. So I was contacted by the Ministry of Education in St. Lucia. I flew to St. Lucia, and it becomes a snowball effect. So my recommendation, if you are going to engage with overseas governments, is go in small to start with. Prove yourself. So we ran this pilot. The The pilot concluded earlier this year. I went across again for the closing ceremony, which was terrible, terrible. I hate sunshine. It's too pleasant. So I enjoyed that very much. And the closing ceremony came, as did the results from the pilot. We supported them throughout. We gave them the help that they needed. And fortunately, pardon me, sorry about that, too much talking, I think. Fortunately, the pilot was extremely successful. The way it worked, there were 12 schools in Barbados. 6 of them, in each school, they picked two classes of roughly equal achievement levels. They ran one class using ConquerMaths, one class using traditional methods. After, it was roughly 9 months, the results came in, and the ConquerMaths classes were 54% greater improved on average than the non-ConquerMaths classes. So that was as good as we could possibly hope. We were ecstatic. Now, fortunately, in addition to that, which helped us drive the initiative forward, we engaged with a number of sponsors and partners, one of which was Fujitsu. They were great. They provided hardware. They provided prizes. Another was an ISP. They ensured suitable internet connectivity for all of the schools. Another one was the Caribbean International Banking Corporation. They provided financial prizes. And overall, by incorporating these well-known names and brands, and fortunately by knowing somebody who was able to get to these people, all of a sudden an additional layer of credibility was added to the offering. It's not necessarily that easy to get to these people, so I mean, my feeling is that overall, it's who you know, not what you know. We have made plenty of mistakes, however, and it's important to avoid those. One of the main ones is thinking that we could do everything ourselves. We can't. We're a small company. There are only 8 of us, and when 8 people are trying to work in 144 countries successfully, it's logistically a nightmare. So that's why independent agents who are masters of their own destiny are very important. If they want to be successful, you will see that in them. Doesn't mean that they will be, but you will see it in them. And they will try. You've got to be careful who you identify. We found it hard. Once you find the right people, all of a sudden things start to take off. We did try to run before we could walk. That was apparent from day one. We literally entering the at that time, in fact, there were only 3 of us really working in the company. Trying to enter an international market with 3 people and £1,000 in the bank, it's not really achievable. So we had to reel things in, and by doing a good amount of research, by starting small and slowly building up, as we had the money to do it, it became a bit easier. When things didn't work, we had to learn to walk away, and that's really, really hard. I mean, to be honest, walking away from anything is difficult. Knowing what I know now, 11, 12 years ago when I entered this business, if I knew what I know now, I probably would walk away. But after several years of really, really hard work, it starts to pay off. And I'm now glad that I didn't walk away. So we also did a lot of things right. As I said, partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. That's the most important thing. Knowing the right people, finding the right people, giving them the opportunity to find you. Making those appropriate visits, it really shows a willingness. So despite how hard it might sound, when I was asked to go to Barbados, I felt it was the right thing to do. Somebody had to take, from the company, had to take that bullet. So I had to step up to the plate. And despite the lovely beaches, yeah, it was awful. So definitely make visits where you possibly can. And if you have the opportunity to involve press and media, do so. I mean, Barbados, great opportunity. Small place, normal people, and any story is a story in a small place. So you stand a much greater opportunity of getting into the press and media, getting your idea out there, and really, really helping it to flourish. Again, it's much easier to prove your concept in those markets. And in addition, one thing that we did find, when we walked into the schools that were using our product, the kids were so eager, the teachers were so eager. I don't think they are quite as used to seeing so many new technological products as we are in the UK and other parts of the world. So really, they are so much more receptive, and it was a genuine pleasure, actually. So I couldn't recommend that sort of territory more highly. Not just the Caribbean, there are plenty of other small territories all around the world that I think would be just as receptive. So questions that we should have asked ourselves before we started, and in many cases didn't, is could we afford it? The answer to start with for us was no, but we did it anyway. Do you have the time? We didn't, but we did it anyway. That was quite difficult. You've got to learn in business to live without very much sleep. And that's certainly true when attending exhibitions like this. So you get through it, and it's worth it if you succeed. It's important to check if your existing market is saturated. In the Caribbean, it wasn't for us. It was an excellent market. We did our research. We saw that there is no competition. We did what we could to align our product to the Caribbean curriculum. We talked to them in their manner. We basically presented exactly what they needed, what they wanted, what they responded to. We did make sure that we had adequate protection. It's important to protect your product. You need to have design rights and everything else. When you're entering a new market, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to take your idea, turn it into something completely different. That's difficult to do with some things, but not with others. So do make sure that you have protection over anything that you do. If you need to visit, it can be expensive, but it can be fun and it can be important. So when working internationally, we always will visit where appropriate. Now, fortunately, the necessary knowledge, that's quite easy to find in the modern days of the internet. You can go on Wikipedia, you can find out nearly everything that you want to know. We did that before we entered any new market. We made sure we knew exactly what we needed to say, exactly the problems we were likely to face. And yeah, we thought we did, but of course we didn't. There's always something that you forget about, something that you don't take into account of, but you've got to start somewhere. Okay, so important things: cost, ease of access. Got to think about language and social and religious barriers. In the Caribbean, that's very easy. Fortunately for us, most of the islands that we work in prolifically speak English. That's easy for us. But if you're entering a new territory, and some of ours that we work in, they don't speak English as a first language. In fact, some countries, strangely enough, use our mathematics product to help their children to learn English at the same time as learning maths, which to many people might sound quite frightening, actually. But if you've got a love of maths and you understand maths, then yes, it's a good opportunity. Again, you've got to think about appropriate laws, especially business laws, when entering new territories. I mean, we always ensure that we've got our insurance in place and all necessary laws are adhered to. It's something that you've just got to read up on. And again, competition. Is there any competition there? If there isn't, why not? There's probably a reason for it, but there might not be. When we went to Barbados, we thought, right, okay, what's the competition? And there wasn't any. So we thought, how can we find out why? Has anybody tried to enter the market? Did they fail? If they did, why did they fail? And it turned out, actually, that the simple answer was that certain territories, Barbados especially, technology is catching up with countries such as the UK, but internet access, computer access in schools, it's only just coming in. So it's good to look at the technological advances of each nation that you're entering. And in fact, our product has been a stimulus for the government to invest in more technology for schools. So you can actually start to mold a new territory as long as you have that killer app or killer product and you can prove that it is going to make a genuine difference. It's not always easy, but in somewhere where there is only maybe 250,000 population, that is potentially achievable. And we have made some good steps in the right direction there. So there are a number of traps you can fall into. Sorry. Right. Number of traps you can fall into, and most of those can be quite neatly avoided by ensuring you've done your research and you know those problems. So make sure you use the internet. It is your friend. It is cheap to market over the internet. Advertising's cheap. Consider your regional variations. And most importantly, from my point of view, find those strategic partners and any distributors and agents that you can. Take advantage of your social media. Look for any specific regional networks that can help get your product out there. Look for those routes to market and any opportunities you can. Find sponsors. Sponsors are great. In Australia, the lessons that we use, they were sponsored nationally by McDonald's. Managed to get 75% of the Australian population using the product. They spent more money on advertising than they did on the sponsorship. So get those people on board if you can. It's a great opportunity. And if you can get a champion to do it all for you, that's even better. One last point that I should have made is also engage with UKTI, because we've had a number of meetings with UKTI representatives, and I've got to say they are knowledgeable, kind people who have really advised us and put us in touch with some excellent people in territories we want to enter. So I can't push that point enough, that really you've got a very good opportunity to get in at a good level and meet some important people by talking to these guys here. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time. And if anyone does have any further questions, you'll find me on stand B83, which is just 50 yards that way or so. Thanks very much.